ambition. But too many of us back away from it because it got made bad, right? I was scared to have ambition because you know what? If you have ambition too big for your britches, people start insulting you. Who do you think you are? Oh, you think you can do that? You don't even have any skill at that. You think you can do that? You haven't even had their training. You don't have the degree. You don't have the experience. You don't have the background. You don't have the social following. You don't have the environment. You don't have the money. You don't have the bank account. You don't have the credit. You don't have... And people start puking on you when you share your big dream with them. You're like, hey, look, no, listen, I'm trying to go up here. This is where I want to be, right here. I got this dream, it's huge. I got this ambition, this dream, this hunger for more. And immediately people seek to see whether or not you are qualified. And they judge you based on your past of qualification versus your present of how you show up. I don't judge anybody on their past. Actually, let me see how you show up right now. Because everybody in this room, how many of you all screwed up a bunch in your life? I mean, oh man, I'm such a screw up. It's so great. We're all screw ups in some way or another. But how are you showing up now is the question. How hard are you willing to work now? What's the discipline you're willing to put in now? Yes, gain that knowledge, skill, and ability, but your ambition, everything I do, everything you see me do at a public level, I had the ambition for a mission, but I didn't have the skills to do any of this. I never thought I was crazy. I'm gonna leave a safe job out of grad school. I got a safe corporate job. I wouldn't say a safe corporate job, but it was a good job. And I liked it, and it was a good job, and it had a very clear path to rising. And I had something else I wanted to do. So I quit that job, and everyone else said I was crazy. I wanted to go write books. I had never written books before. I didn't know how to do that. And then I decided my first major book was gonna be a work of fiction, a book called Life's Golden Ticket. And I'd never written a parable before, but I remember reading The Alchemist and being so inspired by Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. You all read that book? I hope you all read that. It's now the 7th most read book in the history of the world. It's unbelievable, right? So and the longest running book on the New York Times in history is now The Alchemist. And I remember reading that book and I thought I related with the storytelling in it. And I wanted to write Life's Golden Ticket, but not tell my story, my accident, but rather tell the story of a character going through change. And I got this blessed meeting with a big famous author in San Francisco. And I was so excited. I mean, because I've been wanting to write. So I went and had this big meeting with this big fancy author. I wore a suit and I got all dressed up and I was so nervous. And I sat and I talked with this person. And he's hearing me describe very passionately why I want to write this book and what my life's message is about second chances. Because Life's Golden Ticket is really a story about second chances. And so I want to tell a story about second chances. And I was so excited. And I'm telling him, and he goes, so wait, this is your life's message? I go, yeah. And he says, you're really passionate? I go, yeah. And he goes, but you've never written fiction? I go, no. And he goes, Brendon, I'll never forget, he goes, Brendon, do not risk your life's message on your freshman effort at fiction. Fiction's hard. I admire that you want to write this book and that's your dream and that's your ambition and that's your goal, but you don't know how to do that. Ambition's really hard. People go to writers' conferences for their lives. They get creative writing degrees. Like he said, everyone in this building, I mean, we spent decades trying to figure out how to do fiction and you're just gonna come and write this fiction book. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you need to write a nonfiction book. And what happens is we have this big aspiration, but because we don't know the how, sometimes someone tells us you don't know the how, so what do? If you don't know the how? Yeah, you minimize it. You drop it back down to here. Maybe you drop it back down to here. Maybe it's like here. It started up there, but you didn't know the how, and you let other people drop that down. So I listened to the guy. I said, okay, I guess you're right. It's true. It sounds logical to me. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So maybe I shouldn't risk my life's effort. So then I spent 2.5 years struggling in San Francisco, trying to write Life's Golden Ticket as a nonfiction book. And it was like pulling teeth. I couldn't get it, it wasn't working. And then it was so frustrating. And I was like, I need to figure this out, because it was the time I was about to leave my job and everything, and I was putting everything at risk. I said, okay, the timing all turned out, went back to my childhood home where I grew up, tiny little home, tiny little bedroom, writing on my mom's sewing room table at the time to complete the book. And in 18 days, I said, you know what? I got to stop trying to write the book they told me to write and write this book that I feel like I should write. And I started all over from scratch, complete scratch. 18 days, all I did, I got up, my mom made an amazing big breakfast, I'd eat a big old breakfast, and I'd write, and I'd write, and I'd write. My dad would come home from work, we'd go play racquetball. I'd come home, I'd write, and I'd write, and I'd write, until it was so dark and my eyes hurt, it was so late, and I'd get up from my desk, and I'd walk around my childhood neighborhood where I grew up, and my school, and my elementary school, and the playgrounds we'd play in, and then I'd go back, go to bed, I'd get up, and I did the same thing for 18 days. That's it, 18 days. And at the end of the 18 days, Life's Golden Ticket was done. Submitted it to, thank you. It was 18 magical days. If you've ever read the book, there's a huge surprise at the end. I didn't even know that was coming. I did not see that come. I mean, sure, so however shocked you felt, imagine me, I was writing the book. I was just typing along, watching, I'm like, oh, damn. I remember I'm watching the movie, I finished the book, I'm like, whoa, can that even happen? And I literally got up and I was walking around the little desk and I'm like, can that character, did I do this? And I had to go for a walk just to think about if the book could even end, because I didn't know the book was about to end. It just ended with that scene. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it was a huge surprise to me, and I knew it was magic. We put it out there, 21 publishers turned it down. 21. My agent still jokes to this day, he only told me about 19 of them turning it down because he didn't think I could take the other few more that came in. Turn it down. Finally, boom, HarperCollins gets it. An editor who happened to edit and publish another book called The Alchemist fell in love with Life's Golden Ticket and gave it a shot. We put it out there, and I got this dream to be this big author. I'm gonna go. We launched Life's Golden Ticket. I have no idea, none, what I'm doing. Put the book out there. We get a bunch of quick early hits because I had all these promotional partners in these nonprofits we were donating money to who supported the book. Got it out there, boom, charts on Amazon, really great. Next week, no one's buying it. Totally, I mean, this ambition just keeps getting stomped down. No one likes your book. Big author says it's stupid. They're all turning it down and it doesn't sell. Think about what that can do to your psychology. Think about me now saying I'm a writer. After the book doesn't do well, after everyone turns it down, after they say don't do it. Think about that, where that could have directed me. But your ambition is your own. And your ambition has to be free from all of that negative. If that's a real ambition, you got to own that ambition. Psychologically, I was a writer. I said I was a writer. I said I was a writer on days I didn't write. I said I was a writer on the days they all turned me down. I said I was a writer when that guy who was a big name fancy writer who'd been on all the big shows, including Oprah, told me I was kind of crazy, and I walked out of his office all dejected. I was still a writer. Sometimes what really gives us the greatest amount of motivation is when we got the guts to actually allow ourselves to tie some of our identity to what we're doing. And we're told not to do that because it can bring discouragement and heartache. But the counterintuitive things is high performers to a T, the top 15% who I interviewed, they said, oh no, they were comfortable tying up their identity in what they were doing. They were comfortable. It didn't mean it always turned out great. It didn't mean they always felt great, but they were comfortable owning it, right? They were comfortable owning what they were doing. They owned that, and because they owned it, the motivation was there. Because you know when the motivation isn't there is when your ambitions are half-ass. When you kind of want it, you kind of don't. And that's why you kind of work for it sometimes, and sometimes you kind of don't. Because psychologically, you haven't allowed yourself to own the ambition, to feel it inside and say, that's part of me. I'm going to make that happen come hell or high water. I didn't care the first book. I said, maybe the next book, maybe the next book, maybe the next book. Didn't matter to me. I was going to keep on that ambition because it was important to me. You've got ambitions important to you and your family and the people you're serving. And it doesn't matter what I say or the person to your left or right says. If you own that ambition, you pursue it, and you pursue it with full heart. And when you pursue it with more heart, that ambition, that keeps sparking over and over and over. You don't have to rev yourself up because it is you.
Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that is, You are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. It's like a lot of people who achieve a lot of great things, they actually, how many of you know someone who's very competent, has great skills, but lacks the capability to execute? See, capability is something you know. Capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who they spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. You know what I mean? It's so important to understand this. I know if you're a parent, you understand this difference. Lots of kids can learn things and have skills and abilities. But if they don't put them and apply them, they don't sense that feeling of capability. And now your smart child, your child full of strength, talent, and ability, doesn't run on the field, doesn't take the action, doesn't finish the test, doesn't go for it. They don't feel capable. Why don't they feel capable? They don't have a pattern of action taking. You've got to develop the pattern of taking the action, the pattern of taking the action. Better yet, the pattern of taking the action to complete the key priorities. So all I want you to do as a daily simple habit, every morning, we do it in the high performance planner. I write down my key priorities for the day. Do those first. Get those out of the way. Make that happen. Maybe that's your morning. Maybe for me, I didn't feel capable in my career for a long time because I was replying to everybody. And then I did a simple thing. I said, you know what? No phone calls till 1 p.m. in the afternoon, my time. That leaves the morning to do the most important work. Because I do the most important work almost every morning of my life, I feel incredibly capable. Give me a task list. Give me that log is happening in the brain. Good job today. Good job today. Good job today. Good job today. That consistency, that congruence developed the capability. Now I feel capable and I am capable because I executed. Because I executed so many times, I developed a skill. Y'all follow? This is so important. Okay, this is so important, this capability piece. And the best part is when you get some capability, if you'll do what we talked about earlier, self-reflection, you'll start to go, look what I did there. If you do what I've always taught, which is you have to integrate the wins. Integrate the wins. When you do something, take a moment and go, I did that. Yesterday, here's how simple this is. Yesterday, after months of thinking, strategizing, and planning, I created this presentation and I sent the email. And it took me about 2 hours to pull this off. But I decided, you know what? This has been on my big dream list for a while. I'm going to make this pitch. It's a pitch. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get it done. And I finally sent it. And I'll tell you what, I walked out in the other room. Denise's like, what's up with you? I was just feeling so good. I said, I'm going to have a nice glass of wine with dinner tonight. to celebrate. I did this. It was sending an email. But I was, some of you are like, I'll have a glass of wine every time I send an email. Yes, sure. Thank you. But here's the thing. You got to celebrate the days that you are capable. When you do something good, go, good job. Pat yourself on the back a little bit. You have to integrate the win into your identity. If you took all of your strengths and all of your good days and all the wonderful things you have done in your life, and you really sat with them for a minute, you let them come in, you let them mentally stack where you just thought of that time you finished that big project, you launched that thing, you got the negotiation, you won the award, you handled that tough situation at the park with the kids well, you didn't get brought into their drama, you just took some time for yourself, and you let that integrate into the identity of who you were, you would feel an internal goodness. And see, when you integrate the good of what you're doing in life, you feel good. And I don't mean that like with hyperbole. I mean, you sense goodness again. When I sense that I'm good, because one, in my opinion, I'm lucky to be here. My clarity says, if you are alive, have reverence for life. You're a child of God. What a gift. You are so lucky. You're blessed to be here. So for me, I feel capable as a person. I feel I've been given gifts and strengths. Yeah, I had to develop a lot of them, just like you did. But because I trust that I was given those gifts or those strengths or this life, I feel capable. I feel like, you ever heard that thing? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You ever heard about that? It's like, oh, yeah, I'm capable because I got someone watching over me. My dad's up there. My creator's up there. Grandma's up there. I feel good. I feel good. I feel capable because, you know what? I've done some good things. Okay. You let that come in. You let that goodness come in. Some of you haven't let your goodness shine for a while. Your vibrancy, your joy, that sense of soul or spirit or flow or femininity or masculinity, that part of you that's like this, because why hasn't it gone out like that? Because you haven't brought it in and stored it up. See, all you've done is deplete yourself for other people without those moments of self-reflection about the goodness that you're doing for other people, about the goodness you're doing in the world, about the virtues and the values you stand for. You haven't let that stuff come in and form into the cement of the foundation of your character. And so you wonder why it doesn't emanate. Why doesn't the goodness come out? Because you haven't sat with the goodness that's already within. Why doesn't the goodness spread out? Because you haven't sat with the goodness that's already there. If you knew half of how good of a human you are, the choices that you've made to be on something like this, to raise your hand for personal development, to want to learn from other people, I celebrate that I raise my hand to learn. When I go to a seminar or I buy a course, I pat myself, I'm like, good job, you're learning, kid, you're not done yet. And I feel good about myself as a learner. I think learners tend to be more confident than people who think they know everything, you know? Because people who think they know everything are terrified that their worldview might break. Learners, like, I'll adapt, I'll figure it out, right? That adaptation mentality, that learning mentality gives me confidence. I believe in my ability to figure things out. I'm really excited to talk about this month's topic, which is how do you create remarkable and long-lasting friendships? And I'm talking about the kind of friendships that you love, the friendships that bring you alive, that bring you that connection, that help life feel more even meaningful, that help you progress and feel supported, help you be seen, help you feel a true connection with not just others, but with humanity, because the people around you are awesome. And when the people around you are awesome, you know you feel better about life. But we also went through this crazy last 18 months where so many people were isolated, where we had so much turmoil, so much conflict, so much in just uncertainty and fear in the world, where I really believe
friendships really elevated, and you could see whether or not you had great friends throughout this pandemic or you didn't. You were able to see whether or not you got the support that you needed, whether or not you were able to maintain your sense of vibrancy in some of those times of aloneness, whether or not you had people who cheered you on when you decided to make a transition, start something new, or the kids left the house, or you got sick, or something was going on that was difficult in your life. We look to our friends. And I think that this is a very undervalued conversation in mental health. So much about the mental health conversation is appropriately about self-awareness, it's about mindfulness, it's about taking care of our stressors, and a lot of it is that solo work that we all have to do for self-mastery. But I can tell you that the great universities of the world, the psychology department is right near the sociology department because they go together. Like, we are social beings. And when you lose that social connection with the world, which usually starts through lack of disciplined habits with your friends, then suddenly life loses its color. And I think this is so important. You're going to hear me talk about friendship today in a way you probably haven't heard before, very much from what we would call a high-performance psychology perspective. And I think you're going to love this. So if you've been struggling with friendships in your lifetime, not either having enough friends or not having the quality of friends that you've always wanted, this is a serious conversation today. I can't imagine a time, at least in my life so far, where friendships were so incredibly important. I get to share some of the things that really have worked, not just in my life and my friendships, but in studying this work deeply over the years, in recognizing how many people are entrepreneurs, high achievers, people who are trying to make great impact in the world. You're here today, and sometimes that journey can feel very lonely, or when you get to the top, it can feel lonely, they say, and I'm like, I kind of believe what my friend Brian Tracy and mentor said to me one time. He said, if it's lonely at the top, you did it wrong. I thought, woo, that's good. That's good, because maybe sometimes we value today progress. We value today getting things done. We value that top mountain of achievement. And then we look around and go, oh, nobody really knows me. I don't feel a connection to others. Yeah, I got the thing, the house, the car, the bank account, the accolades, the Instagram page, and all of a sudden, though, something's missing. And friendship is one of the greatest vehicles to the real psychology of well-being that we talk about here at GrowthDay. And I'm going to share with you a secret today, just a simple phrase. You're going to go, oh my gosh, that's why my friendships aren't going right. So you're going to love this session. I say that triangle, right, of well-being that we talk about GrowthDay. Aliveness is one of the things we all want after we had everything else, right? Another thing we want is connection. We're not after casual friendships here today. We're at like, how do I create authentic, deep, trusting, vulnerable, fun, real relationships? Because how many of you have ever had friendships that turned out to be fake? You thought you had a good friendship, and that thing turned out to be not so good, or poisonous, or somebody weren't loyal to you as a friend, or they lied to you, or something went wrong. You thought, what? How could that happen in that relationship? And I always tell, friendships are a science of relationship. Right? It's about how you create relationship with others. And I'm going to give you, again, a phrase that will really help you with this today. And then if it's true that we want aliveness and connection, this triangle, another thing that we want is meaning. Well, meaning isn't achieved just by living your purpose each day in your own head. Meaning is achieved through a social relationship network. My sense of meaning is, do I feel connected to the world? And the world isn't an abstract thing. It's not like I feel connected to the oak tree. It's like, no, I mean, did you make your difference in the world? That's going to be served and answered through your social impact, your relationships with others. And I have to tell you, I've been coaching people for 20 years of my life now, and a lot of people have one friend. You know, in the United States, unfortunately, the number of people with 3 good friends has declined over the decades. You're like, 3 good friends? Oh, we got to talk about that, because some people stumble into friendships or hope for friendships. Just like some people hope to have a loving relationship. Just like some people hope to have a good job. Just like some people hope that, they get healthier. And then there's strivers who take life a little bit by the reins and say, no, let me architect that, let me build that. And I'll give you my own examples today of where I sucked at friendships. And I had to learn, how do you do them? And how do you create them? And once you know how to create and craft them, life really opens up for you. And it becomes not just more alive and connected, but more meaningful. Like a sense of meaning happens when we have a tapestry of social relationships that are real and impactful. And then, of course, in the middle of that triangle, you always see me draw out growth. That your friends should be lifting you up, not pushing you down. Your friends should be inspiring you to get better. Your friends should have your back, but also be willing to challenge your face. You know what I'm saying? Like your friends are and should be one of your primary growth drivers in life. Most people choose ambitious goals to be their growth driver. Oh, I'm gonna do something that's hard, or I'm gonna try to achieve this amazing thing. I'm gonna try to become a millionaire or make this difference or build this company or have this type of family. And it's this external climb, this thing they're trying to achieve. And too many people forget, it's like, actually, one of the best drivers of growth isn't your job, isn't your goals, it's your friendship circle. And when your friendship circles make you a more alive, deeper, caring, thoughtful, authentic person in the world, I'm telling you what, guess what? At work, you're better. At home, you're better. Your art gets better. Your sense of life lifts. Let me share with you what I really believe to be the 2 central problems of friendship. Okay, the 2 central problems of friendship. The first one is a failure of each of our own. Like, I'm just taking this on myself as well. It's like we fail in life to realize most of our friendships were assigned, not aligned. Most of our friendships were assigned, not aligned. What I mean by that is many of our friendships happen because group assignment, right? Think about it. Some of your best friends, where'd you meet them? School? Your neighborhood? Some other affiliation, maybe at work? Maybe in a group that you joined? So it was like, oh, we showed up somewhere or we were assigned somewhere and there was that girl who sat next to me in class. We became friends. Or, oh, I worked with this person at work. We were coworkers. We became friends. And these are kind of like assigned friends. And I know that sounds really weird to say, so bear with me a little bit. I don't mean that the manager was like, you're gonna be friends here. What I mean is, because of your group, your affiliation, or where you were, you kind of met people there, and by default, by you being a good person or communicating or doing stuff with them, you kind of became friends. Versus, that's like an assigned friend. It's like, oh, because we were here, we became friends. Versus an aligned friend, which is, oh, I'm an adult now. What are the types of friends that I want to create that align with my passion, my dreams, my lifestyle, my values, my beliefs, the things that I want of life, and let me go get them, not let them fall into my lap. Which brings up the second designation. And this is hard to say to people, and if you're in a place where you feel lonely in your life, or you feel like you don't have great friendships, I promise this will be so helpful for you today to even know how your own brain thinks. And many of us, and I was this way probably all the way throughout high school even, I never, and this is the second problem of friendships, I never made the deliberate choice to have remarkable friendships. I kind of ended up with friends. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Who's like ended up with friends? If you kind of just like ended up with like this person, it was kind of, my friend, one of my buddies he goes, I don't want no rando friends. And it was like random. Now, I love random. I love the universe. I love God. I love coincidence. Listen, I read the Celestine prophecy. People are glowing out there for me. I believe in that coincidence stuff. But I can also share with you, like, if you just allow randomness in your life all the time, you'll always feel a sense of mediocrity too. We have to stretch. We have to choose our life. And to choose our life, we have to be deliberate and go, what kind of life do I want? I would like you to learn to architect your ideal friendships. And can you get all of them? And will all your friendships be perfect? I'm not that guy. I'm not here to promise everything's going to be sweet and perfect and peaches in life. I am here to suggest, though, that if you haven't deliberately chosen the types of friendships that you want, that's a problem, especially if you're an adult, right? And that's the thing is, we're not encouraged to do that. Think about how much time people were feeding your ears with the idea you had to be really thoughtful about the career you choose. How many of you ever had more people tell you more times about be so thoughtful about the school you choose, the career you choose, but no one ever said as much, be very thoughtful about the friends and the friendships that you build. And that's why we have a lot of high-achieving people who are lonely their whole life. Well, think about your career. What are you going to be one day? Very rarely, what's the type of social network you're going to build around you? What's the type of friendships you're going to architect? What are you going to be proud of in terms of your friends in the future? What do you want your friends to achieve? What do you want your friends to experience in life? Not just what they give you, but what are you going to give out too? What kind of friendship do you want to create and experience? How do you want your friends to actually interact with one another? Have you ever thought about that? We spend so much time, if you're a parent and you have 2 kids, you're so worried about how they interact, right? I know people who've never even thought, how do I want my friends to interact? I mean, they might think, you know what, we shouldn't put them in a room at a party because they have this history, that background, but very few people are like, I'm going to actually teach my friends how to be friends with one another. Now, I know some of you might be like, this guy sounds like a control freak. I'm like, I am, but I'm a happy one. You know what I'm saying? I think this is such an important area to architect. Most friends have never talked about how to be friends. They just go, you want to go to lunch? They go to lunch. They talk about the weather, the waiter, the food, what's going on. They leave. And there's no architecting. There's no, I think of like social systems are things that can be shaped. You all think like at work, right? How much we talk about at work, building a culture. More books and more people have spent time on this conversation of building culture at work and never the culture of a friendship. Isn't that weird? I don't know where along the line we lost the conversation and the desire to choose to build awesome friendships and a culture of friendship. Meaning not just friends. Most people think of, I want a friend, right? When you're in high school, you just want a friend, right? You just like, at least I was like, can I get one? You know, it's like, you worry about having friendships when you grow up. And usually that means you think, and we're all trained this way, especially in Western cultures. We're taught to have a friend, and we think in a very individualistic mode. I and this person are in relationship, and then you have another friend. I and this person are in relationship. And maybe you go out and you try to get them together and we have a party. But even at the party, it's individual nodes, me, that friend, and this friend. And I don't get trained as I'm getting older to think as a systems social architect.
oh, wow, look at all these nodes, if you will, these friends. If I like each of these people and I have a relationship with each of these people, why don't, in some way, I weave them together and create a tapestry of friendship where I'm actually connecting the dots and creating a culture of friendship. See, we don't think like that, do we? I was a very kind of solitary child. I was kind of in my own little world. I don't know about you all, but I was definitely, I would be like an introverted kind of child. I kind of kept to myself. I like to play with my toys kind of by myself. In elementary school, from what I can remember, I was kind of solo, Brendon. I didn't see social systems, right? I was in a class with kids and a teacher, and I had a relationship with the teacher, and I had a relationship with this person or that person or not, but I couldn't see the class. I couldn't say, oh, like this group is kind of like this. Instead, it was just like, she likes me or she doesn't. Teachers like that. I didn't see the system. Today, I'd like you to try to see the system a little bit. See the system of the friendships you've built in your life. See the system at play at work. See the system of your culture or your nonprofit or your company. When you can start seeing a bigger picture and get out of your head a little bit, now something happens. There's connection, there's community. See, everyone says, I want community. I'm like, well, you can't be an individualistic person in the community forever. You have to elevate to seeing the system. If you'll never be a community member or an effective one or a helpful one if you can't get out of your head. Well, I'm saying that not as judgment to you, that was me. So there's no judgment here. If you don't have friends, I'm telling you my story too. I was a solo person. I was in my own head. I couldn't see the class. I couldn't see the system. And so I felt apart. And because I felt apart and I couldn't see what was happening and I didn't know how to engage, I was lonely. And then when I finally made a connection with a friend, that friend became my life. Later on, that perpetuated into, some of you guys know my story of my first breakup with my high school sweetheart. I was destroyed because that was my one person, right? That was my one node in the world. And then when that relationship fell apart, I fell apart and became depressed and suicidal. And so how we relate with one or multiple people can completely shape our mental health. I know you already know that. And so I had to learn, wow, one, I don't want to ever be dependent on one friend. I want to build a support system. You ever heard that language before? No one says, go build a supporter. I want you to listen to the language of successful people. When successful people are speaking, they never tell you, go build a supporter. They say, go build what? A support system, a support network. Oh, I got to get out of single node thinking. A node is one individual unit, and I got to get into the system. I got to stop thinking, does Sally at the class next, does she like me? And if she likes me, my whole life is good or bad or ruined. And I got to go, there's a class here. There's an energy, a vibe, a spirit. There's rules and norms. There's a culture here that is happening. How do I want to participate in this? And how do I want this culture to happen too in ways that I can affect? What do they want? And we all have to start thinking about that more in a society in which we're supposedly connected, but we've actually become individual nodes in the network. Resilience. If we've ever needed this conversation, it's probably right about now. People have really struggled to move through the dramatic changes we've all been experiencing, not just in the last year, but if you look at just the craziness of the last 5 years or the last 10 years, we've had technical disruptions, economic disruptions, pandemics, we've had major political shifts around the world. Change is always accelerating. It's compounding each and every single year as the human body is being more connected to one another. It's an incredible challenge at the macro level to deal with all the changes that we face when sometimes it's scary, uncertain, discouraging, frustrating, when you witness hate, when you witness things that just don't vibe with your personal values or your socioeconomic beliefs or even your faith beliefs. All of that can really knock a person down. And resilience is that promise of the human spirit. The promise of the human spirit that it can rise through the most difficult times in life and recapture its sense of aliveness and connection and meaning and move forward with great faith and optimism. We know these things as we hear about resilience all the time. So today I'm hoping that I can provide a unique perspective on it from my vantage point. I think that a lot of resilience and our ability to do that is stymied or hampered or slowed down by the fact that we get hurt. We experience emotional pain, trauma, sadness, difficulty. And when we're in those days and nights where we feel that it's darkest, it's really hard to get up and go again. And it's not that most people lack mental strength or mental tenacity, which has become very popular in the last couple of years of like, oh, well, they're not mentally strong or resilient. It's like, oh, well, let's not forget the difficulties that people face in life. Because a big part of resilience is empathy. A big part of resilience is allowing ourselves to feel that. Allowing ourselves to feel those challenging days and those dark nights and those frustrating moments. Allowing ourselves to be like, oh yeah, it's all right if I'm not perfect. I'm struggling right now. Resilience always begins with acknowledgement of the difficulty, acknowledgement of the challenge, acknowledgement of the struggle of life, and acknowledgement of the inevitable hardships. Because picking yourself back up or remaining strong and optimistic through difficult times, that's super hard if we don't first and foremost allow ourselves to sense it, feel it, recognize it. And the issue is when people do sense and feel and recognize it, unconsciously or unconsciously, they often make a mistake. To become resilient, we have to remember, and you're going to write this down, we have to remember that hurt and pain are indicator lights, not the wheel. And let me draw out this metaphor for everybody today, and I'll go deeper on it because I've introduced this on social media in the past, and people are like, whoa, that's a huge concept. And this idea is that when we're young or we're lacking awareness, or we haven't done our personal development and we're just going through the motions of life, a lot of our unconscious behavior becomes steering ourselves and driving ourselves through or away from pain and hurt. We got hurt when we were teenagers, so we shut down. We felt pain of trauma, so we started doing everything to avoid that versus everything to live life. And so what I use this metaphor as hurt and pain are indicator lights, not the wheel. And that means imagine you're driving your car. And as you're driving your car, you notice that some of the indicators aren't where you thought they would be. You don't drive the car forever based on one of those lights. You ever have a light go out in your car? Like I had in my car, and I had this indicator light that the parking brake was on, but it wasn't. The light always said the parking brake is on. I mean, I had a 1988 Nissan Sentra, it had like 3 different colors on it because I had wrecked it before. There's Bondo colors on it. It was like orange and red. And this light was always on. Well, I didn't stop because that light was on. I knew that light was important, but I could verify whether or not that thing had to stop my forward momentum or change my destination. And what most people do is when they got hurt or they feel pain, they start gripping the wheel of life and steering only to avoid pain. It's kind of like if you're driving down a road and you steer only to avoid the potholes, you will definitely run off that road. There will be a greater accident. Because what's more important in driving is that you have a vision of where you're going. And that the wheel, the the person at the wheel. You are directing this vehicle of life where you want it to go, not just where you are afraid it might go, and not just away from pain, but rather towards your ultimate vision. And sometimes we lack resilience in life. We are not even conscious of it because all we're actually doing is never recovering from those indicator lights. And we're driving by the indicator lights. You know, another example I gave this morning, I think on social media, was about, you know, imagine you're a pilot of a plane and you're flying that plane to New York. And you know what? The indicator lights, they show problems. Well, you work to solve the problem of the indicator light, but just because it's windy or you're getting a lot of turbulence, it doesn't mean that when you're going to New York and you get this turbulence, you go, oh my gosh, this is just terrible. I better go where the turbulence isn't, and you end up in Philadelphia. No, you're going to New York. And that having vision for life, having a direction in mind, and being at firm control of the wheel is a important precept to everything we're going to talk about today in resilience and mindset. Meaning, if pain has a hold of that wheel, you're not going to be where you want to be in life. Consciousness, intention, awareness, mindfulness, spirit, soul, future, purpose, mission, whatever you call it, that's got to be at the wheel. When you got hurt and you were 15, that didn't need to dictate your next decade. You didn't need to drive your next decade of your life because of the hurt. You got divorced at 40. You don't need to be at 50 having just been reacting to that indicator light for a whole decade. What you got to go is, oh, okay, this thing happened. It hurt. I had to check in on myself. I had to make sure that I was okay. I had to take care of that problem or take care of myself, but that's not going to direct my map. That's not going to direct where I go. That's not going to make me steal. It's not going to steal my ability to steer my life. And a realization of resilience comes when often we realize, wow, I did pick myself up, but I went in the wrong direction. See, a lot of people actually have tremendous resilience and they never get credit for it. But it was the choices they made next that showed they didn't have ultimate resilience. Because you know what we learn in high performance habits? And I know you all know this, that first habit of highest performing people in the world, which remember, they were also the highest in well-being and positive relationships, was clarity. They had clarity about who they were, where they wanted to go. They had clarity about who they were and where they wanted to go. Think about that for a minute. They had clarity about who they were and where they wanted to go. It's a pretty powerful idea, right? That if I get hurt, or I feel pain, or I feel sadness, and I shut myself down, but I'm able to pick up and go through the week still, yeah, I picked myself up. But if I didn't ask, wait, okay, that wasn't what I expected. That did hurt. But what's it about now? Where do I want to go now? What is my vision? Without that, I'm here to tell you, it's extremely hard to be truly resilient. There's a difference between picking yourself up and getting back at the day and being resilient enough to course correct for what's true to you, to where you want to go. So to be resilient, we have to know in the future, you know what, next time I get discouraged, someone judges me, I get hurt, I'm sad. Next time I experience that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remember that's an indicator light to check in with myself. That's an indicator light to check in, see what's meaningful, see what matters to me, and where I'm going to go now. What's the next right action of integrity for me now? What does my future hold for me now? Not to now grip the wheel and stay or live in the pain or the hurt or direct ourselves only from the pain and the hurt. Because what resilience is the ability no longer to direct ourselves from the discouragement, the hurt, or the pain. Now, I know this is kind of like an advanced idea in personal development here. And some people will always say, well, yeah, easy for you to say you didn't have this person break your heart, or you didn't have that happen at your job, or you didn't have this happen, in your business. I'm like, well, I probably did, or work with somebody who did. And if I didn't, the good news is 7 billion people on the planet, somebody did. If you keep thinking your hurt and pain is only yours, it only happens to you, then you feel even more isolated and less likely to enter the world again faithfully and confidently. And so don't be one of those people who are like, you don't understand my hurt and pain, because that's a slippery slope into isolationism. That's a slippery slope into withdrawing from the world. It's a slippery slope of closing off your heart when you think other people can't understand. Maybe the immediate people around you who hurt you, they don't understand. But the world at large, they get it. They've been through it. They saw their parent go through it. They saw somebody experience it. And when we can recognize the common human story that's always struggle or progress, we can go, oh, other people struggle too, but they can progress too. And so can you.
This has been so powerful when you've shared this on our morning show. And I just want to share it with everyone here. A lot of people are showing up here going, okay, like it's been a hard 14 months and, struggling with self-doubt, struggling all the things. And some people have goals that they're trying to figure out with their career and all the other stuff. Yeah. But then there's also a thing called feelings goals.
Yes.
Feelings goals, right? So many of you guys, this is going to be new for a lot of people. This is newer for me in my own life, frankly, right? Because, all my years of working as a Denny's waitress, trying to all the jobs and then all the years of rejection with my business, when I finally got, when we were finally getting momentum, I didn't feel the day. I just drove as hard as I could. And one of the things Brendon has shared so much about, and I would love for you to share with everyone live right now, is you can have goals in your fitness journey and in your career and all these things, but what about goals for your feelings, for how you feel and how you feel the day? Can you share?
Yes.
This is so powerful.
I remember the first time I said this to her, feel the day, and she's like, oh, right. And we had this huge, great talk about it, because what happens is sometimes you're taking care of the kids, you're going through your life, you're doing the projects, you have the to-do lists, and you're just going, and you finish the day, you didn't even feel the day. There's no reverence for life. There's no love. There's no heart. There's no spirit, no flow, no connection, no creative pop. And it's not because it wasn't there. It was just, you just like blew through the day. You bullied the hours, I call it. And there was no moment of a pit stop to give prayer or meditation or gratitude or a second to go like, how am I feeling? And am I experiencing the energy that I want to experience in life? And that's, again, we generate that, but feeling the day. I found the most successful people in the world, I remember we drew this out. I went to Jamie's house almost 2 years ago, I think now.
Yeah.
And we were talking about successful people, and there's drawing this little triangle, and what everybody wants after they've gotten everything. After you hit your goals, you made the money you feel like your family needs, what you want is you want to feel the day more. You want greater depth in your relationships, like deeper relationships, deeper commitment, deeper meaning, right? We all want those things. And then we also want to know that we're leaving some kind of legacy or contribution, what I call meaningful pursuits. And I think feeling the day should be in your top 1 or 2 priorities every day. The whole mindfulness movement is really architected to, I want to feel the day. I want to feel presence, right? I want to feel the energy. I want to feel the spirit. I want a self-awareness or consciousness. It's a different feeling of the day versus just like powering through or caffeinating through it all and just blunting it out. We want you to have those sensations of beauty and honor and respect and depth every day. We want you to feel joy and reverence every day. She knows I probably say reverence every morning show because I'm so happy. Who feels so happy to be alive? Mm-hmm. I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to be with this woman. I'm so happy with this team and with you all guys. It's amazing. It's a gift.
Yeah, I love that so much. And even Ed Milet was sharing a little bit about that idea of, setting goals also for feeling the day. And then also like what are feelings we want in our life? And yes. I think you just named a big one too, which is presence. I think that it's been so easy, especially the last 14 months, to like disconnect and just try to numb out and try to surf Instagram or watch the news or all the things, right? And so many people are saying that's really taken a toll on them, that they feel their own light dimming when they do that. And, I started the morning off by talking about how that light is still inside of you, that light in every single one of us, right? A lot of people nodding. It's still inside of you right now. And I think part of igniting it is learning to feel the day, right? So what are just a few just simple tips people can do who are like, Brendon, how do I feel the day?
I feel nothing. Part of it, recognize your overall emotional feeling every day is usually a 72-hour after effect of how you moved, breathed, slept, and ate in the last 72 hours. It really is like it's a cumulative effect, especially of the last 72 hours have a lot to do with your emotional world. So that's why having good habits on a consistent basis, like you might listen, if you want to have a cheat day, that's okay, but that's why they call it a cheat day. You eat bad for one day, but then like number 2 and number 3, if you get back on the train, you start feeling good again, right? So it's okay to have one day off, but I think the most important thing for feeling the day is you need to have pit stops throughout the day. You need to have moments that you purposely take every day throughout the day to reconnect with spirit, soul, energy, or even just to breathe, Mom. Like just to take a beat, close your eyes. Like I'll stand. I do this every hour, okay? I'll stand up. Sorry for the camera guys. I'll stand every hour. I stand up. You've been asking me to demonstrate.
Yes, demonstrate.
I will stand up. I will close my eyes because a lot of your fatigue is visual fatigue. And that visual fatigue is causing a lot of neurological fatigue. So closing your eyes, especially because we're all these devices, close your eyes. I stand, I bounce in place. I swing my arms. I take 10 deep breaths like this. 10 deep breaths like that every hour. And it re-energizes my body and my brain, and it's a little pit stop. And now my mental focus is back. When I open my eyes, I go, what's my intention for this next hour? And that little pit stop makes me go longer, just like a race car. It can go around the whole race, but it doesn't. It takes the pit stops to tune it up so it can go longer and faster and win the race. You need a little more pit stops to tune your mind up, amp up your emotions, reconnect with the heart or the spirit or the soul. And if you are just grinding all day, there's no pit stops. That's the equation for burnout.
Yeah, well, so many people feeling burnt out, right? People that aren't leaving their home but because of the pandemic, but just so burnt out and so overwhelmed. And one thing you shared that I want to make sure everyone caught is the idea of visual fatigue, because that was a huge aha moment that I had with you on the morning show just in the past few weeks. I thought, you guys, we implemented this at It Cosmetics. We grew to over 1,000 employees, and we would start ending meetings like 5 minutes before the hour, instead of just back-to-back-to-back meetings, right? Because the idea that you can get up and just walk around and move your body. But one of the things you brought up is I learned I was doing them wrong because I was like walking and moving, but still engaged. I would take meetings in the hallway walking, or I would check my email on that 5-minute break, right? And can you just quickly share the idea that when you do take a pit stop, when you do take that 5 minutes, right? And this is hard for a lot of people, but the idea is when you take that 5 minutes, the other 55, right? Or you take the 10 minutes, the other 50 are so much more alive.
Yes.
They're so much more alive. So people that say, oh, I can't afford to do that. No. You're so much more alive in those other 50. But I was doing it wrong because I wasn't actually resting my mind. And you talk about the power of like visual fatigue. If you take a break and you're scrolling Instagram or emails, that's not a break.
That's exhaustion, right? Scrolling is just exhausting your brain even more and more and more and more. It's engaging it, but it's exhausting it more and more and more. And so it's like this. You cannot possibly hope that burnout will end if you don't more consistently recharge. But we grew up on a century-old model that, we'll get to recharge when we retire. We'll get to recharge, 2 weeks out of the year when we have vacation. It's why people are miserable, because the burnout is real because they don't recharge. That one day I'll recharge, the spa day, or a year from no. The world's largest study of productivity that's ever been done found out the most productive people in the world who also reported high levels of happiness, they took a break on average every 52 minutes. Largest study ever done. Every 52 minutes they took a break. Did they need the break? No, they're recharging. If you're crashing at 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, it's time to take a hint
you need to recharge at like 10:30, 11:30, or 1:30 to prevent the crash that happens 2 or 3. The crashes happen because the recharges are not happening. And so the burnout will always be there. And I always say, make sure you don't blame the burnout on anybody. Please don't blame your burnout on your kids. That's not fair to them. Don't blame your burnout on the team. Blame the burnout on either ambition that is unmet with planning or just not taking care of and prioritizing your self-care or your well-being. Take care of you so you have the energy to serve at your highest levels. I think that is something we can all align with.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.